Welcome to the Australian Hiker Podcast, Australia's longest running hiking podcast, downloaded over 750,000 times in 150 countries and providing you with an Australian perspective on all things hiking. We're your hosts, Tim and Jill Savage.
In today's episode, episode 232, we learn all about Australian-based clothing company Ottie Merino. Before we get into today's episode, if you'd like to help support Australian Hiker and this podcast, there are a couple of ways that you can help us out. Firstly, by subscribing on your podcast host of choice so that each episode is available as soon as it's published. And if you have the opportunity, leave us a 5-star review. Another way to support us is go to the Australian Hiker website at www.australianhiker.com.au and click on the supporters page and buy us a coffee. You can do a one-off donation or become a monthly supporter. All donations are greatly appreciated and help us to continue producing this podcast and blog. Now let's get on to today's episode. Ottie Merino is a relatively new Australian-based outdoor clothing company that, as the name suggests, specialises in merino garments which have been designed by hikers and for hikers. In today's episode, we catch up with Paul, one of the founders of Ottie Merino, to find out more about this relatively new Australian adventure company. Paul, thank you for taking the time to chat with Australian Hiker about Ottie Merino.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Now, before we discuss Ottie Merino, can you please give us a brief introduction to yourself in relation to your general background and what your involvement in the hiking and outdoor industry is?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been hiking since I was a wee hacker. So that would be, 20, 25 years now. So I've always loved being out there in the Aussie bush. Sort of stuff. I was a real hobbyist fisherman to begin with in my teens, in fact, and that would take me out to places like the Onkaparinga Gorge in South Australia and what have you. And from there, I sort of abandoned the fishing and got more into just exploring the bush. So this was, going back 20, 25 years ago. Later on, this was going back maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was working for Snowy's Outdoors, which is obviously camping and hiking gear retailer in South Australia. So I was working there in their marketing department. And I have maintained that connection to the industry and the community ever since through my involvement with the hiking in Australia and New Zealand Facebook group as well.
And do you actually get much time to do your own hiking, or are you too busy caught up with everything else and keeping Ottie going?
Yeah, well, hey, you've got to get out there and test the gear, right? So it's a requirement. It comes with the territory. But no, I try to get out as much as possible. So just recently, I've spent some time in Spain and have done a few hikes around Catalonia, which has been really, really interesting and exciting and different. But back in Oz, it's something I try to do most weekends. A lot of day hikes and that sort of thing around the sort of local trails, but with a few bigger bucket list items each year. And really excited to get back over to New Zealand hopefully soon, now that the borders are open and all of that.
I must admit, Spain's one of the things on my list, or I should say specifically Spain and France. I do want to do the Camino, and I was actually hoping to do it over the last couple of years, but like everybody else, the plans have been disrupted, so I think it'll be another 2 years away before I get onto that.
Oh, you must. The hiking scene over here is really, really quite buoyant. There's a lot of similarities with Australia, but there's a lot of differences as well. It's really quite unique. And unique especially down where I've been spending some time recently along the coast in Catalonia, and heading up. So we're recording this in September 2022. Heading up to the Pyrenees this weekend, in fact, to do a nice chunky day hike up there. So it's certainly a place you must keep on the list, Tim, and visit when you can.
And I was just mentioning to you before we started recording the interview, I'm guessing you're probably not getting as much rain as we're getting here at the moment.
No. So it's the seasons have changed. So the summer has been very, very warm, very humid, making it really difficult to get out, for a hike in the afternoon sort of thing. So, typical weekend is, sleep in a little bit and sort of maybe head out and sort of use the later part of the day, considering the days are quite long. But the heat has been really sort of inhibitive around that. But change of seasons, it's much cooler and there's a bit more rain now, but certainly not to the levels that you're getting over there. And it's becoming much more pleasant at the moment now that we're in early autumn over here. So But hey, I'm looking forward to the 2022 bushwalking season over in Australia when I'm back in a few weeks.
Yeah. So now let's get on to Ottie Merino. Ottie Merino has been around for just around 2 years, from what I can tell. Mm-hmm. So it's still a relatively new company as far as outdoor companies go. And while many hikers may know the brand, I'm sure there's probably a number that may not be aware of it at all. How did the concept come about? And why start another Australian clothing company? I mean, don't we have enough?
Yeah. So how did it come about? You hear a lot about this in the entrepreneur / business circles. It's about scratching your own itch, which is an interesting pun for Merino as well. Those that know Merino will know that it's not itchy. So it was a classic scratch your own itch situation. So I'd been hiking for 20, 25 years, wearing Merino probably for around a decade. And in that time, I've been through a lot of T-shirts, a lot of undies, a lot of thermals. And when it came to the humble T-shirt, I just couldn't find one that I was completely comfortable in, that I wanted to wear every day. And I do want to wear Merino every day because of all of the benefits. So, what do I mean by that anyways? I mean a T-shirt that's, a little bit more relaxed, that has a little bit more lens, and that's durable and obviously high quality, and preferably Australian made. So, giving a bit more background here, so I run a group on Facebook called Hiking in Australia and New Zealand, for those that don't know. So I turned to the community over there, and we were at about 25 or 30,000 members back then, and asked a heap of questions. So went out to the community and asked, if I sort of created something in this sort of space, is that something you're interested in? And what would you be looking for in the perfect Merino T-shirt? And, got a lot of feedback and incorporated that into the concept that I was designing. And, eventually it got feet, and we went out there and started developing the product and sampling it and, sharing the iterations with the group and getting more feedback. Finally in June 2020 got to the point where we could launch it. So, which was, this isn't how a lot of businesses start out, going out there and actually getting that direct feedback from the customers in this way, crowdsourcing demand, they call it. But I knew to create a product that was genuinely servicing a need, that's the way I needed to go about it. And another part of this as well was, my background is in marketing and e-commerce. And of course, I've had experience in the hiking and outdoor industry as well. So I wanted to sort of, put some of those skills and experience to good use, to create a brand and to create a product that people genuinely wanted.
Yeah, I think you picked a good time to try and start a new company, right? And I suppose you don't always know this, do you? Oh, there's a pandemic coming. Let's start a new company.
Well, that's right. We were due to launch, early 2020, but we sort of put it on ice for a bit because we didn't know what was happening in the world, really. So, but then once we got a few months of pandemic under our belt, we could sort of see how things were traveling, and we saw that it was going to be an okay time to launch this. Making it in Australia, that was certainly a blessing with everything that's gone on.
I must admit, my shopping habits changed very much, particularly during that first lockdown. We shifted from bricks and mortar stores to buying online, and we probably ended up spending more online than we did in total because we couldn't go anywhere. So let's spend some money on things we want or things we like.
Yeah, that's it. And hey, it's all in the spirit of kitting up for when you could get out there. Hey, so you're just doing prep work, right?
Yeah, I think we supported one of our local wineries through that period. Like everybody else, it was like, what can we buy? And they delivered as well, so it means we didn't have to go anywhere.
Oh, I can relate to that for sure.
Okay, now why Merino? What's so special about Merino, and why Australian Merino?
So why Merino? Well, it's odor resistant, so you sweat. You get those sort of cakey armpits. It doesn't stink, so you can wear the thing for days on end. Especially important if you're wanting to keep your weight down. So, if you're out there doing a track like the Overland track, you could wear practically the same T-shirt for the entire trip, and you're not going to smell rotten by the end of it. Moisture wicking, so, that's obviously important for us hikers to dry out as quickly as we can, because the last thing you want to be doing after that slog up to that summit is to be standing there in cotton, drenched in sweat as the breeze starts to pick up. You'd be feeling pretty lousy and pretty cold. And of course, there can be safety aspects to this as well. The fact that it dries quickly, reduces risk of hypothermia in more serious situations. Another thing about merino is it has this uncanny knack, and I probably should spend more time understanding the science of it, but it has an uncanny knack of keeping you warm when you want to be warm and keeping you cool when you want to be cool. So we get people, commenting and speaking to us all the time, going, I love merino, and it's, I have a set of thermals for winter and what have you. But of course, merino is really good in the heat as well. And we've got customers up in far north Queensland, in the humid tropics, that are wearing long sleeve merino as a means of keeping the sun off. And they're loving the stuff because, it doesn't necessarily heat up if it's sort of a lighter weight fabric. But when you need it to be warm, it's wicking that moisture that would normally obviously cool you down, and it's keeping you warm in those conditions as well. So, for us, it's odor resistance, it's the moisture wicking, it's the temperature regulation. And 100% merino as well is completely biodegradable. So, some other brands out there have actually have done these tests where they've composted their merino fabric, and it's sort of broken down rather quickly, and all that was left behind was the thread that was stitching the garment together. So, it's a renewable fibre as well. So, there's just so many benefits to it. Sounds a bit silly, but it is a bit of a wonder fabric, I think. It's not just for hiking either. I wear merino, as you can imagine, being the owner of a merino wool company. I wear merino every day of the week, and I just couldn't go back to wearing cotton or synthetic or anything like that because they just don't possess the same benefits that merino does.
I must admit, I wear merino quite a lot. I mean, I'm sitting here at the moment with this interview. I've got a merino top on, which I've been wearing all day, and a fair number of my tops are merino. I'm a convert. And have been for many years. I agree. It just you get wet, you tend to you don't freeze to death. It's as long as you haven't got a winter thermal weight garment, it works well in summertime, and it does protect you from the sun. So I think it's definitely a great product.
I was just going to remark on the UV aspects of it as well. That's another added benefit of merino. So, as a sun protection, we've got a lot of customers who are buying our long sleeve lightweight tees now because they're rather sun smart or conscious of the sun. A UV protectant, merino is definitely a good choice.
So is the long-term plan to stay purely 100% merino, or do you think you'll incorporate other fabrics at some stage down the track?
We've already started incorporating some blends into our mix. So the first product we brought out was just our flagship product, if you will, was a short sleeve 100% merino tee. And the follow on from that, and this was off the back of customer feedback as well. We had a lot of people reaching out to us and saying, hey, why don't you do a long sleeve? So it made a lot of sense to do the long sleeve next. That's a lightweight 100% merino as well. But then we moved into underwear, and underwear is what took us into blended fabric. We get some messages and emails from customers saying, why don't you do a 100% merino boxer short as well, or thermals? But there's plenty of downsides to doing that, and there's plenty of upsides to using a blend, especially when it comes to durability and stretch and friction and comfort and things like this. So we started using blends. So we use a few different ones. So for our undies, they're a tensile, nylon, elastane merino blend, and for our thermals, we use a merino elastane. So we've done a lot of testing with different fabrics, and ultimately what you see in our range now is what we've settled on as being the best of all worlds. Would we move into strictly other fabrics so that don't have any merino content at all? It's not our aim, considering our name is Ottie Merino.
Yeah.
And, what I'm looking at, more interested in probably doing, is seeing how we can actually take merino to products that haven't traditionally been made from merino wool. So what I'd really like to do is come up with a pair of running shorts that are made of merino or a merino blend, because I've managed to find some overseas that are really ripe for improvement. But I'd love to add something like that to our range as well, and explore other parts of the category that we haven't yet, and see how we can merino-fy them, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? Is you, rather than saying, well, we're going to make more T-shirts and more socks, something like running shorts, as you say, if they're being done overseas, there's obviously a reason for that. And seeing how they go in Australia, I think it's worthwhile. as you say, diversifying a bit and seeing what you can come up with.
That's it, and really, I'm a bit selfish here as well, Tim. Like I'm wanting to slowly build out a full merino outfit for myself, so I can genuinely say all I wear is merino now. So, and hey, who knows? That could take us into shirts and all sorts of things.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, if you get a fine enough on a merino, and the machines can pretty much do anything with most fabrics these days. So it'd be interesting to see how they go. So what are the key products you sell, and what makes them different than things from Australia or from overseas for that matter?
Yeah, sure. Our T-shirt, our flagship short sleeve T-shirt, you look at it and you think, okay, that's just another merino T-shirt. But we made a few design decisions with it, and this was off the back of the feedback that we received and the itch that I, of course, had in those early days. And that was just down to the design, right? So we found that most merino short sleeve T-shirts on the market, they tend to be a little athletic in their cut. So they tend to come in on the sides a little bit because they usually are designed to be a base layer. So they're designed to be worn close to the skin for moisture wicking reasons and things like this, and to trap the heat or whatnot. That's not for everyone. So, we all have different bodies and the like, and we all feel comfortable in different things. And we soon discovered, from having those conversations in the group that people were after something that was a little more relaxed and a little more comfortable in that sense, with a bit more length. So that's a big, I think, selling point of our long sleeve and short sleeve tees, and our thermals for that matter, is that they are a bit longer than your average tee for its size. The purpose of that is, one, to stop the tee or the garment from riding up when you're wearing a pack. So these are hiking clothes largely. So, people who are wearing them are wearing a backpack. And of course, if you're wearing a regular size or a regular length T-shirt, you get that annoying exposed back. When you're wearing a pack, the shoulders kind of shift down a little bit. The back starts to lift up, and you end up showing your lower back. And when you're wearing a jacket or a jumper as well, it can often be, and a pack on top of that, you end up coming untucked, and it all becomes rather annoying and silly. And I know this might seem like a trivial feature, but it was one that we got a lot of feedback on. When it comes to our, I was going to say, I'll
just interrupt you there. I agree wholeheartedly with you. I know there are some brands on the market that it's almost like, we can save 2% on the cost by shortening the length, and having that extra bit of length makes a big difference. So it's a good feature.
It's less fabric indeed. So there would certainly be a cost saving in it. And when you're a bit taller as well. So let's say you wear a medium T-shirt for your width and what have you. But if your torso is a bit longer, well, that's it. You sort of you have to go up a size to get that length. So we've got a lot of customers who are on the taller side who really enjoy our product. That said, we've got a lot of customers who like the width of our product, but they're on the shorter side. So what they might do is just go to their local clothing alterations company if they feel that the tee is a bit too long, and they'll just have it taken up like you would a pair of jeans or a pair of pants. And that really makes for a custom T-shirt, right? Taking it to your alterations place and having them alter it. And, a lot of people wouldn't even think to do that with a T-shirt. I've always done that with, dress shirts and things like that. I've had them sort of taken in and taken up and what have you. So they fit really nicely. But with our women's tees in particular, we got a lot of feedback there, and it was around things like color. There's a saying in the outdoor apparel industry of, the outdoor gear industry of shrinking it and pinking it, where, the woman's version of a product is a product that's been downsized and it's been made pink. So it's been put into a feminine color or whatnot. Yeah. And the women that we spoke to said, no, we don't want that. We just want neutral colors, the same colors that are going to be available in the men's range. And that's what we've held to ever since. So we don't have, pinks and purples for women and then the neutral colors for guys, like with a lot of outdoor gear. We've just kept the same color mix across both men's and women's. A lot of women's T-shirts on the market have got either scoop necks or V-necks. A lot of women don't like that. So we've kept the crew neck across our range as well, because that's what people wanted. And that's what we wanted when we started out. So, yeah, we've taken a lot of feedback on board, and the group has been phenomenal for that. They've genuinely been a part of creating this product and helping us build this business.
Was that a deliberate choice in approaching the Facebook group? I mean, yeah, it's certainly you've got a built-in marketing resource there. Was that something you consciously thought of, or was just when you thought about the company and then thought, hey, this is not a bad way to get some feedback?
Yeah. Well, we certainly didn't create the group for that purpose. So the group came about, I think, in like 2015. So it had been running for many, many years before this was even a brain fart. But yeah, indeed, we saw the group as potentially as a marketing resource, but didn't want to just go out there and obviously spam up the joint once we had this product. And my experience in marketing and in e-commerce and building brands in particular, has really given me a bias for getting customer data and feedback and insights, and using that process, I guess, as a part of the awareness of the product. So by the time we got around to launching Ottie Merino, we had a big email list of people who were eager to get their hands on this product, and launched it in the group and had a really, really good reaction to that launch because people were invested in a way, right? This was a product that they'd helped create, and that really, really addressed some of their own pain points. And I guess it goes back to the whole question of like, why another merino t-shirt in the market? And it's like, well, because the ones that are out there clearly don't hit all of the marks. So, we were very conscious about incorporating those things that people wanted. And, not everything has been incorporated into the product. So we get a lot of people saying, hey, why not a V-neck? And a V-neck is something we'll look at down the track. But for now, we wanted to stick to that thing that people wanted the most, that was really not on the market, as it wasn't readily available on the market already. So we this has given us the ability to talk to a group of people and to create a product that they wanted, as well as I guess show an authenticity for the brand as well. We're hikers, we're genuinely hikers, we're genuinely merino wearers. So we're walking the talk, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So is there any key question that I've missed so far?
Yeah, well, it's the timing of this call, funnily enough, is the last day of ECA week, so Ethical Clothing Australia. So we're Ethical Clothing Australia accredited. And what that is a program that ensures that our supply chain is well managed, that our people who make our product are getting paid correctly, they're given good working conditions and so on. There is this is probably a bit dark to be talking about, but hey, why not? It's, the timing is phenomenal. Just because a product is made in Australia doesn't mean it's, number one, doesn't mean it's necessarily top quality. Our product certainly is, and our reviews back that up. But doesn't necessarily mean that, the people that are making the product are necessarily given the best working conditions. So we made a conscious effort of joining ECA, or Ethical Clothing Australia, when we started the brand. So we've been accredited since, I think, late 2020, so soon after we started. And that's something, the values that sort of encompasses are really important to our brand, really important to us as people, and really important to our customers. And there's a few other, I'll give them a mention, but wilderness wear, of course, and I know you wear a lot of wilderness wear as well, Tim. That's another Australian merino brand that are ECA accredited as well. So, when it comes to buying merino clothing, or any clothing for that matter, keep an eye out for this program, because it means a lot of good. It means that the people that are making your clothes are given good working conditions. There's no slavery or anything like that, and they're paid correctly.
No, that's good. It's. I think this is the biggest thing. When we did the industry interviews a few months ago, and it's been a trend that I've noticed over the last couple of years. There's only so many. You can only do so much in design. You can only do so much in colour, and it's what else can you do to improve the product? And I think a lot of it is improve the conditions of people that are making these things, to improve the environmental friendliness. And I think that's the way, as a generalisation, that the industry is shifting. It's using recycled products, looking after the supply chain in a much better way, and without necessarily increasing the prices too much. I think outdoor gear, clothing or not, really hasn't changed that much in pricing. It's sort of we're getting a better deal out of it, and we are looking after the environment, looking after the workers. So it's a good thing to do.
You're right. You know, there's no huge imposition on us to be part of this program, and likewise for wilderness wear, right? You know, and it gives us peace of mind, and it really it gives transparency to our supply chain. So, you know, we have a better understanding because we don't have a factory ourselves, so we use what's referred to as a contract manufacturer down in Melbourne. But it gives us that transparency, this auditing program, to know that the pieces that sort of form it are sort of all in order. And you know, that was really important to us from the get-go, and you know, turns out it's really important to our customers as well.
All right, that's good. So we've been talking with Paul from Ottie Merino. Paul, thank you for taking the time to chat with us.
Thanks so much, Tim.
So that was our interview with Paul from Ottie Merino. And as I said at the start of the interview, why do we need another Australian clothing company? And I think it's one of those sort of things that, in talking to Paul, in being aware of the product for the last couple of years, they tend to be unique. They didn't come into the market and say, what's everyone else doing? Let's just copy it and make more of the same and maybe change the pricing and change the colour. They came into the market after doing fairly extensive research online to see what people wanted and producing products that people were interested in. And they are offering, T-shirt's a T-shirt, a long sleeves top's a long sleeves top, but they've done it in a way that, you know, that matches the colours that people want, that matches the styles that people want. And as a result, they've grown over the last couple of years, moving from just their original offering of a T-shirt for men and for women to now offering a much broader range that is progressively and slowly increasing.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and it sounds pretty obvious when you say it's about user-centered design and putting the consumer in the middle and responding to what they need. But, you know, when I was listening and then also looking online at the information that they have about their products, and I was looking at the women's tops, and the big difference is things like women don't necessarily want to wear pastel T-shirts with, you know, scoop necks and, you know, funny patterns on them. And, you know, sometimes it's really hard to find something else. So, you know, it's a pretty simple design guide, but ask your consumers what they want and do that. So,
and in the case of Ottie, when Paul did ask that question, the response he pretty much got overwhelmingly was, we don't, as Jill said, we don't want the pastel colours. We just want the same choices we get from the males. But typically, with a lot of other clothing companies, you'll find that they'll make the small sizes of whatever the product happens to be in female-centric colours.
Whatever that is, I don't know.
Whatever that is. And typically, it is the saying of shrink it and pink it, doing pink, doing purple. I must admit, I'm a large male and I'd love to get a purple T-shirt that would fit me, but it's not something that they make. And again, it's probably not – I'm probably a rarity here. I think most people like the traditional colours, the blacks, the dark greens. The new colour which they've got out just recently is granite, which is a grey sort of colour. So they're not colours that are going to upset anybody. And in a lot of cases, that's the safe way to go. If you make bright colours or strange colours, you're going to very much limit your market. And while you might keep some people happy, you may not keep the bulk of the people happy.
Yeah, but there's also a wearability aspect to this in terms of colours. You know, I mean, when we go on a week-long hike, we pretty much wear the same thing. If you've got a light-coloured top, that's going to look pretty grubby by the time you get to day 6. So, you know, there's a practicality aspect and a wearability aspect. And just on that, I have to put my 2 cents worth in about care of these garments. You know, I've said before that if something doesn't survive our dryer, then it's not going to survive this house. And, you know, these T-shirts, they wash up really well. They definitely... I'm sure it's not recommended to put them in the dryer, but I do. They maintain their shape, their good length. The hems don't come all wrinkled up, which I hate. So, they're good products and, I think they've got a great future.
The other thing that Paul mentioned, and again, I'm finding this an interesting theme, including with the interviews we did with other industry suppliers earlier in the year, and this has been an ongoing theme of ethical production. And in this case here, they're using Australian wool. They're using ethical production, which means that the workers on the production line are being paid a fair and reasonable wage. It's not being produced in some sweatshop in a small country in the middle of nowhere. It's
or a big country. Or
a big country in the middle of nowhere. It's good to see. I think it's quite funny. I think in some respects. I mean, T-shirt's a T-shirt, and while you might change the neck or you change the colour or you change the stitching, there's only so much you can actually do with it. So, in Ottie's case, they've made them a bit longer, which is not a bad thing from my perspective. I always find the T-shirts, in a lot of cases, tend to be a bit on the short side, particularly after you've put them through the dryer. But it also means that you are supporting an environmentally friendly and a worker-friendly product, which is a good way to go.
Yeah, I mean, just on the length of the garments, they are a generous fit. I'll say that for someone like me who's on the smaller side, that basically means you go down a size, and you kind of work out that from the size charts and so on. But for Tim, absolutely. It drives me nuts when his, T-shirts don't meet the top of his pants.
And I think it's interesting. Now, Paul did mention that, he said when he started off, a lot of the product on the market was what was made with what's classed as an athletic fit, which means it's a bit more form hugging. So they've gone a bit more generous in the material. I still do like that athletic cut. So whereas I might be an extra large in a lot of other companies' products, with these ones here, I'm more likely to go for the large just because I do like that snugger fit. And that's purely a personal thing. But in doing so, I don't lose the length. It's if I go for an athletic fit in a lot of other products, I find that, as Jill said, they're just a bit too short. So it gives you the ability to...
Like your pants.
Yeah. It gives you the ability to go for either a generous, roomy sort of fit or go for an athletic fit, and it still meets the length requirements of the body that you've got. So I think they've done well there. Okay, so we hope you've enjoyed this interview, and if you haven't been aware of Ottie Merino in the past, it has been around for 2 years, but that's still relatively new as far as a company is concerned, and they've certainly increased their product range quite a lot, actually. As I said, they've moved from just the single offering of a male and female T-shirt to having quite a reasonable product range, and I'm sure that will continue to grow. And Paul did mention one thing he was looking at was making a pair of woolen running shorts. So that'll be an interesting thing to see if and when that does come out. Okay, that's all for this week's episode. We hope you've enjoyed. Bye for now.
And bye from me.